Stop scrolling. Right now. I need to ask you something that might shatter everything you believe about being a good person. Do you think kindness protects you? That generosity builds loyalty? That being honest earns you respect? If you answered yes to any of these, you're living under the most dangerous illusion society has ever created. Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to admit: your goodness is destroying you. Right now. Today. In ways you can't even see yet. The biggest lie you've been sold is that being good keeps you safe. But the reality? Goodness without strategy is like walking into a lion's den covered in meat. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this over 500 years ago. He watched kind rulers get overthrown. He saw generous leaders betrayed by the very people they helped. He witnessed honest men destroyed by those who played dirty. And he wrote it all down in brutal detail. Today, I'm going to show you what he discovered. The hidden cost of goodness that nobody talks about. The price you're paying every single day without even realizing it. In the next 25 minutes, you're going to learn 3 things. First, why your goodness is actually making you weaker, not stronger. Second, why people don't respect your kindness, they exploit it. And third, how to transform goodness from your greatest vulnerability into your most powerful weapon. But let me be crystal clear about something before we start. I'm not telling you to become cruel. I'm not asking you to hurt people. I'm not advocating for evil. What I'm showing you is how to be good strategically, not blindly. Because in a world full of wolves, being a sheep gets you eaten alive. And being eaten alive helps nobody, not you, not your family, not the people you actually want to help. Before we dive in, drop this affirmation in the comments: I choose strategic goodness over blind kindness. Let's begin. Part 1, the exposure of virtue. Think about the kindest person you know right now. Picture them in your mind. Now ask yourself this: are they truly respected? Or are they just the person everyone calls when they need something? There's a massive difference. Here's what most people don't understand: being consistently good doesn't make you safe. It makes you predictable. And predictability in human relationships is the same as vulnerability. When people know you'll always be kind, always say yes, always help no matter what, you stop being a person to them. You become a resource. A tool. Something to be used. Think about your own life for a moment. Who gets more respect at your workplace? The person who helps everyone with everything, or the person who's selective about when and how they help? The answer is obvious, but it stings: the person who helps everyone becomes invisible. Their help loses value because it's always available. But the person who helps strategically? When they offer assistance, it means something. It carries weight. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves." What does this mean in real terms? Being only good, only kind, only gentle, makes you the lamb. And lambs get slaughtered. You need to be the fox who sees manipulation coming. You need to be the lion who shows strength when necessary. You need to balance goodness with awareness and power. Let me tell you about someone I know. We'll call him Marcus. Marcus was the best team leader I'd ever seen. He always helped his team members. Always covered for their mistakes. Always put their needs first. He worked late so they could leave early. He took the blame when things went wrong. He gave them credit when things went right. Textbook good leader, right? Here's what happened: when a promotion opened up, they gave it to someone else. Someone who was less skilled, less dedicated, but more assertive. Someone who took credit, set boundaries, and wasn't afraid to say no. Why? Because nice people don't look like leaders. They look like servants. The people Marcus helped didn't respect him more because of his constant kindness. They respected him less. They saw him as someone who could be pushed around. Someone who would always bend. Someone who had no spine. His goodness became his prison, and the saddest part: Marcus still doesn't understand what went wrong. He still thinks if he just works harder, helps more, gives more, eventually people will see his value, but they won't. Because in their eyes, his value is already defined, he's the guy who always says yes. And that's exactly where he'll stay. This is the first brutal truth: unconditional goodness signals weakness. When you never set boundaries, people will keep crossing them. When you're always available, your availability becomes worthless. When you never show teeth, people assume you don't have any, or goodness becomes the very thing that holds you back because it tells the world, you can take advantage of me. I won't fight back. Now, I need you to understand something critical. This doesn't mean you should become mean or cruel. That's not the answer is strategic goodness. Being kind when it serves a purpose. Helping when it creates positive outcomes. Setting boundaries that protect your ability to actually make a difference. Think about it like this: a doctor has compassion for patients. But a doctor also makes cuts, gives painful injections, and prescribes bitter medicine. Why? Because sometimes real healing requires temporary pain. Your life works the same way. Sometimes being truly good to yourself and others means saying no. Means being firm. Means disappointing people in the short term to help them in the long term. Drop this in the comments if this resonates. I protect my energy and my boundaries. Part 2, the generosity paradox. Now we get to something that sounds completely backwards but is absolutely true: the more you give to people, the less they appreciate it. I know this seems wrong. We've been taught that generosity builds loyalty and gratitude. That giving creates bonds. But that's only half true. And the half that's missing will destroy you if you don't understand it. Here's what actually happens with repeated generosity: when you help someone once, they're grateful. When you help them twice, they're appreciative. When you help them 10 times, they start expecting it. Your exceptional kindness becomes their baseline normal. And here's where it gets really twisted: if you ever stop helping, they don't remember the 10 times you said yes. They remember the one time you said no. Suddenly, you're the bad guy. You're selfish. You've changed. You're not who you used to be. This is what I call the generosity paradox. The more you give, the less it's valued. The more consistent your kindness, the more it's taken for granted. Think about parents who give their children everything they want. The first few gifts are exciting. The child is happy and grateful. But by the 20th gift, those presents aren't special anymore. They're just what parents do, and if the parents ever say no, if they ever can't afford something or decide the child doesn't need it, the child doesn't think, "Wow, my parents have given me so much, I should be grateful." The child thinks, "Why are my parents being so mean? They always get me what I want." The same pattern plays out in every relationship. Friendships. Workplaces. Romantic partnerships. You always pick up the check at dinner. Eventually, people stop offering to pay. They just assume you've got it. You always help people move. Eventually, they stop saying thank you. They just expect you'll be there. You always stay late at work to help. Eventually, staying late becomes your job. Nobody celebrates it. But leave on time once, and suddenly you're not a team player. This is human psychology. We have something called hedonic adaptation. We get used to good things incredibly quickly. What once felt special becomes ordinary. What once felt generous becomes expected. So your repeated acts of kindness actually lose power over time. They become invisible background noise. But your single act of saying no, that's what stands out. That's what people notice. That's what they complain about. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He wrote, "Benefits ought to be conferred gradually, and in that way they will taste better." What does this mean in practical terms? Scarcity creates value. Abundance destroys it. If you're always available, your availability has no value. But if you're selective about when you're available, your time becomes precious. If you always help everyone, your help is taken for granted. But if you help the right people at the right times, your help is remembered and appreciated. If you're always generous, your generosity becomes invisible. But if you're strategically generous, each act of giving creates real impact. this doesn't mean becoming stingy or cold. It means being intentional. Help fewer people, but help them more deeply. Be generous less often, but more meaningfully. Give your time to fewer things, but give it fully. The goal isn't to give less overall. The goal is to make what you give actually matter. I learned this the hard way. For years, I said yes to everyone. Every favor. Every request. Every quick question that turned into hours of work. I thought I was being good. But you know what happened? I started resenting people. I felt angry and bitter. My own project suffered. My own dreams got delayed. And ironically, I became less capable of helping the people who truly needed it. That's when I realized something crucial. Saying yes to everyone means saying no to yourself. And when you abandon yourself completely, you eventually have nothing left to give anyone else. The most genuinely generous people in history weren't the ones who said yes to everything. They were the ones who said no to most things so they could say yes to the right things in a massive way. Mother Teresa didn't try to help everyone in the world. She focused intensely on the poorest of the poor in Calcutta. That focus allowed her to create real, lasting change. Warren Buffett doesn't donate to every charity. He focuses his giving on specific causes where he can have maximum impact. Strategic generosity creates transformation. Scattered generosity creates exhaustion. Comment this if you're ready to shift. I give strategically, not compulsively. Part 3, The Mask of Goodness. Here's an uncomfortable truth that most people never want to accept. Society doesn't care if you're actually good. It cares if you look good. People don't judge your heart. They can't see your heart. They judge your image, your reputation, your visible actions. This means that to maintain respect and influence, you must understand the difference between being good and appearing good. And sometimes, those two things are not the same. Let me explain what I mean, because this is where people get confused and think Machiavelli was advocating evil. He wasn't. What Machiavelli understood was this: sometimes being truly good requires actions that don't look good in the moment. A parent who disciplines their child isn't being mean. They're being good. But in that moment, the child thinks the parent is cruel. A surgeon who cuts into your body isn't being violent. They're being helpful. But if you didn't understand medicine, surgery would look like assault. A leader who makes tough decisions isn't being heartless. They're being responsible. But people who don't see the full picture might think they're cold. The mask of virtue isn't about being fake. It's about understanding that perception matters, and sometimes you need to control perception to do actual good. Think about the most successful leaders you know. Politicians, CEOs, community organizers, anyone with real influence. Do you think they got there by being genuinely nice to everyone all the time? Absolutely not. They got there by being smart about when, how, and to whom they showed different sides of themselves. They smile in public and make hard decisions in private. They show mercy when it builds loyalty and show strength when it prevents chaos. They understand that different situations call for different approaches. This is the mask of virtue. Not a fake face, but a strategic face. You wear different masks every day without thinking about it. You act differently with your boss than with your best friend. You present differently in a job interview than at a party. You speak differently to children than to adults. This isn't being fake. This is understanding social context and adjusting appropriately. The mistake most good people make is thinking they should be exactly the same in every situation. They think consistency equals authenticity. But real authenticity is knowing who you are while being flexible about how you express it based on context. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." This is crucial to understand. Most people in your life will never truly know you. They'll only know the version of you they interact with. They'll judge you based on limited information and brief encounters. So you must be intentional about what you show and when you show it. This doesn't mean lying. It means being strategic about revelation. Don't show your weaknesses to people who will exploit them. Don't show your full hand in negotiations. Don't reveal your plans to people who might sabotage them, but also, don't show only strength all the time. Strategic vulnerability in the right moments builds genuine connection. Strategic generosity at key times creates lasting loyalty. It's about timing and awareness. The leaders who fail are the ones who are only one thing all the time. Only tough. Only nice. Only serious. Only casual. The leaders who succeed understand that power requires range. Sometimes you're the lion. Sometimes you're the fox. Sometimes you're the lamb. The key is choosing which animal to be in which situation, not being forced into one role all the time because people have learned they can manipulate you. Your homework after this video: pay attention to the successful people around you. Watch how they adjust their approach based on who they're dealing with and what they're trying to accomplish. You'll notice they're not being fake. They're being strategic. And there's a massive difference. Type this if you understand: I control my image with intention. Part 4: The economics of kindness. Every single thing you do has a cost. Every favor you grant. Every yes when you wanted to say no. Every hour spent helping others instead of building yourself. This isn't a moral judgment. It's mathematics. Your time is finite. Your energy is finite. Your resources are finite. When you spend them on one thing, you don't have them for another thing. Most good people never think about this. They give and give until they collapse. Then they wonder why they feel exhausted, resentful, and taken advantage of. Here's what you need to understand: unlimited kindness creates limited results. When you try to help everyone, you help no one effectively. When you spread yourself too thin, you become useless to everyone, including yourself. Think about airplane safety instructions. They tell you to put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. This seems selfish at first glance, right? Why not help others first? Because if you pass out trying to help someone else, now 2 people need rescuing instead of 1. Your good intentions created a worse outcome. Life works exactly the same way. If you exhaust yourself helping others without taking care of yourself, you become someone who needs help. Now you're a burden instead of an asset. This isn't selfish to recognize. It's strategic. It's sustainable. I see this pattern destroy good people all the time. They give everything to their job, their family, their friends. They sacrifice their health, their dreams, their peace of mind, and they tell themselves, I'm doing this for others. I'm being selfless. I'm being good. But here's what actually happens: they burn out. They get sick. They become bitter and resentful. And then they can't help anyone anymore. Was that really good? Was that really the right choice, or would it have been better to set boundaries, protect their energy, and remain capable of helping people for the long term? The answer is obvious, but it requires you to shift how you think about goodness. True goodness isn't about sacrificing yourself completely. True goodness is about being sustainable enough to keep making positive impact over time. Machiavelli wrote about the importance of maintaining your state, your power, your resources, your strength. He understood that you can't lead others if you can't lead yourself. You can't protect others if you can't protect yourself. This applies to every area of life. In your career, if you always take on extra work without compensation or recognition, you're not being a team player. You're being exploited. And eventually, you'll either quit or become so resentful that you poison the workplace culture. In your relationships, if you always compromise your needs for others, you're not being loving. You're setting yourself up for resentment and eventual relationship breakdown. In your friendships, if you always give and never receive, you're not building friendships. You're creating dependencies where you're the giver and they're the takers. The economics are simple: you must receive value as well as give it. Not in a transactional, calculating way, but in a balanced, sustainable way. When someone asks you for help, you should ask yourself 3 questions. 1. Can I do this without depleting myself? 2. Does this align with my values and goals? 3. Will this person value and respect what I'm doing? If the answer to any of these is no, you need to either say no completely or adjust how you help. Maybe you can't help right now, but you can help next week. Maybe you can't do everything they're asking, but you can do part of it. Maybe you can't help them directly, but you can connect them with someone who can. Strategic kindness means finding ways to create positive outcomes without destroying yourself in the process. The most generous people in history weren't the ones who gave everything away immediately. They were the ones who built something valuable first, then gave from a position of abundance. Bill Gates didn't donate billions of dollars when he was 20. He built Microsoft first. Then he created a foundation that has saved millions of lives. If he had given everything away in his 20s, he wouldn't have had anything to give later. This is the economics of goodness. Build your strength so you can be strong for others. Protect your resources so you have resources to share. Maintain your power so you can use it for good. Comment if this shifts your perspective. I protect my energy to maximize my impact. Part 5. The Fading of Gratitude. This next truth might be the hardest one to accept. Gratitude has an expiration date. The favors you do for people, the help you provide, the sacrifices you make, they don't stay in people's memories as long as you think they do. In fact, repeated favors eventually stop feeling like gifts and turn into expectations. What starts as, "Thank you so much," becomes, "You should do this," becomes, "Why didn't you do this?" Let me give you a clear example. You help your neighbor move. They're incredibly grateful. They bring you a thank you gift. They tell you how much they appreciate it. 6 months later, they need to move again. You help again. They're still thankful, but less enthusiastic than before. It's become more normal. A year later, they're moving again. You help a third time. Now they just kind of expect it. The gratitude is mechanical, automatic. The fourth time they need to move, they don't even really ask. They just mention they're moving and assume you'll volunteer. And if you can't help this time, suddenly you're the bad guy. "I thought you were my friend. You've helped before, why not now?" This is human psychology. We adapt to good treatment. We take it for granted. We start seeing exceptional kindness as baseline normal treatment. The psychological term for this is hedonic adaptation. We get used to positive experiences very quickly, and then we need more of the same experience just to maintain the same level of satisfaction. It's why lottery winners often end up unhappy. It's why people who get promotions are excited for a few weeks then return to baseline happiness. It's why your repeated acts of kindness eventually become invisible. In relationships, this pattern is everywhere. The partner who always plans dates eventually gets criticized for being boring, not praised for being consistent. The friend who always remembers birthdays stops getting thanked, it's just expected. The employee who always stays late stops getting recognized, overtime becomes their job. Your exceptional becomes their ordinary. And ordinary doesn't get gratitude. Machiavelli understood this about human nature. He wrote about how people remember recent events more than past events. How they judge you based on your current actions, not your history. This means your past kindness becomes invisible over time. Your current actions are what define you in people's minds. So what do you do with this information? First, accept it. Don't fight against human nature. Don't expect people to remember everything you've done for them. Don't build up resentment when they don't show enough gratitude. Second, be strategic about repetition. Don't help the same people in the same ways over and over until it becomes expected and unappreciated. Help different people. Help in different ways. Take breaks from helping certain people so your help regains its value. Third, create boundaries before resentment builds. Don't wait until you're angry and bitter to start saying no. Set limits while you still have positive feelings. Fourth, accept that some people will never be grateful enough to satisfy you. That's not about you. That's about them. Your job isn't to change them. Your job is to protect yourself from being drained by them, and finally, focus on helping people who actually appreciate it. There are people who will value what you do. Who will remember. Who will reciprocate when you need it? Those are your people. Give to them generously. The people who take you for granted? Give to them strategically, or not at all. Machiavelli said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel." People see what's in front of them right now. They don't feel the accumulated weight of everything you've done in the past. So stop expecting your past goodness to carry forward indefinitely. Each interaction is its own moment. Each day is a new beginning. Be good strategically in the present, not blindly based on the past. Type this if it resonates: I create lasting impact through strategic kindness. Part 6, Outcomes over Intentions. The world doesn't judge your intentions. It judges your results. You might have the purest heart, the best motives, the most genuine desire to help. But if your actions don't create positive outcomes, none of that matters. History doesn't remember people who meant well. It remembers people who got things done. Let me ask you something: would you rather be remembered as someone who was really nice but accomplished nothing, or someone who might have seemed tough but actually made the world better? Most people choose the first option because it feels morally superior. But here's the problem: being remembered as just nice usually means being forgotten entirely, because nice without results is just comfortable. And comfort doesn't change anything. Here's a brutal truth: sometimes being truly good means doing things that don't look good in the moment. A parent who disciplines their child isn't being mean in that moment. They're being good by teaching necessary lessons. A teacher who gives tough feedback isn't being cruel. They're being good by preparing students for reality. A boss who fires someone who isn't performing isn't being heartless. They're being good by protecting the team and the business. A friend who tells you hard truths isn't being judgmental. They're being good by caring more about your growth than your comfort. Real goodness is about creating positive outcomes, not just positive feelings. This is where most good people completely miss the point. They focus on being liked instead of being effective. They choose comfort over growth. They pick temporary peace over lasting positive change. But here's the reality: if you're not getting the results you want from your goodness, you're not being good enough. You're being nice, which is completely different. Nice people avoid conflict. Good people resolve conflict. Nice people tell people what they want to hear. Good people tell people what they need to hear. Nice people maintain the status quo. Good people create positive change. Nice people are passive. Good people are active. The world is absolutely full of nice people who accomplish nothing meaningful. What the world desperately needs is more good people who get results. Now, here's where Machiavelli becomes controversial. He said, "The ends justify the means." Most people hear that and think it means, do whatever evil thing you want as long as the outcome is good. That's not what it means at all. What it really means is this: your good intentions are worthless if they don't produce good results. You don't live inside your own heart. Other people don't experience your intentions. They experience the consequences of your actions. So if your kind approach is enabling someone's destructive behavior, you're not being good. You're being harmful, even though it feels nice. If your generous approach is creating dependency instead of growth, you're not being good. You're being damaging, even though it looks kind. If your gentle approach is allowing problems to fester instead of solving them, you're not being good. You're being neglectful, even though it seems compassionate. Real goodness requires courage. It requires you to prioritize outcomes over appearances. It requires you to stop asking, "Will they like me?" and start asking, "Will this actually make things better?" Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you have a friend who's in a destructive relationship. They come to you crying regularly about how badly they're being treated. The nice response is to comfort them, agree that their partner is terrible, and be supportive when they go back to that same person for the 100th time. The good response is to tell them hard truths. To say, "I love you, but you keep choosing this. You need to either leave or accept that this is what your life will be. I'll support you in leaving, but I can't keep having the same conversation if you're not going to change anything." Which response feels better in the moment? The nice one. Which response actually helps them? The good one. Nice makes people feel comfortable staying in their problems. Good pushes people towards solving their problems. At the end of the day, people won't remember your intentions. They'll remember what you built, what you changed, and what you left behind. So ask yourself, am I being nice, or am I being good? Am I creating comfort, or am I creating results? Am I focused on how things feel, or on how things turn out? Real goodness requires you to think long-term, not just short-term. To value outcomes over feelings. To measure success by impact, not by popularity. Comment this if you're ready to shift. I focus on results, not just intentions. Part 7, Legacy and Survival. Let's talk about what really matters in the end, how you'll be remembered and what you'll leave behind. History doesn't honor the merely nice. It honors those who survived, adapted, and turned their challenges into something meaningful. Think about this for a moment. Can you name 5 historically nice people? Probably not many. But you can easily name people who created lasting change, even if they weren't always pleasant. Steve Jobs was notoriously difficult. He was demanding, perfectionist, often harsh with employees. But he created products that changed how billions of people live and work. Winston Churchill was stubborn, domineering, and hard to work with. But he rallied Britain through its darkest hour and helped save democracy. These aren't excuses for cruelty. But they're examples of something crucial: impact matters more than likability. Now, I'm not saying you should be difficult or mean. What I'm saying is that being remembered for making a real difference is more valuable than being forgotten for being agreeable. Here's what most people don't understand about creating a meaningful legacy: you can't leave a positive mark on the world if you don't survive long enough to make one. And survival, in business, in relationships, in life, requires more than just being good. It requires being smart, strategic, and sometimes tough. The kindest people in the world can't help anyone if they get crushed by those who take advantage of them. The most generous people can't give anything if they give everything away too early. The most honest people can't speak truth if they get silenced. You have to survive first. Then you can thrive. Then you can create the legacy you want. This means protecting yourself so you can protect others, building yourself up so you can lift others up, getting strong so you can help the weak, becoming secure so you can provide security. It's not selfish. It's strategic. It's not cruel. It's careful. It's not abandoning goodness. It's preserving it so it can actually make a difference. Look at the people who create lasting positive change. They're not pushovers. They're not people pleasers. They're not afraid to say no, set boundaries, and make hard decisions. Bill Gates built one of the most successful companies in history, often through ruthless business tactics. Then he used that success to create one of the world's most impactful charitable foundations. Oprah Winfrey is incredibly generous, but she's also incredibly protective of her brand, her time, and her energy. She says no to thousands of requests to say yes to the right ones. They understand that being good isn't about being weak. It's about being powerful enough to choose goodness when and where it matters most. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." People misunderstand this quote constantly. They think he's advocating cruelty over kindness. He's not. What he's really saying is, respect matters more than affection. Impact matters more than popularity. Strength matters more than likability. You don't have to choose between being good and being strong. In fact, you shouldn't. You should be both. But if you had to choose, if circumstances force you to pick, choose strength first. Because strength gives you the power to be good when it actually counts. Weakness just makes you a victim, even with the best intentions. Think about it: a weak person with a good heart can't help anyone. A strong person with a good heart can change the world. So build your strength. Protect your resources. Develop your skills. Create your security. Not instead of being good, but as the foundation for being effectively good. Your legacy won't be determined by how many people liked you. It'll be determined by what you built, what you changed, and who you helped in meaningful ways. and you can't build anything meaningful if you let people tear you down. You can't change anything significant if you're too exhausted to act. You can't help anyone effectively if you haven't helped yourself first. This is the final brutal lesson: strategic goodness creates legacy. Blind goodness creates martyrdom. And martyrs, for all their sacrifice, rarely leave the world better than they found it. Type this if you're committed to building something that lasts: I build strength to create lasting impact. We've covered a lot of ground today. 7 brutal truths about how goodness can destroy you when it's not combined with strategy, awareness, and strength. Let me summarize what you've learned. First, unconditional goodness signals weakness. When you're always available, always kind, always willing to help, people don't respect you more. They respect you less. They see you as someone who can be exploited. Second, the more you give, the less it's valued. Repeated generosity creates expectation, not gratitude. Your kindness becomes invisible unless you're strategic about when and how you offer it. Third, perception matters as much as reality. The mask of virtue isn't about being fake. It's about understanding that you must control your image to maintain the respect necessary to do good. Fourth, your resources are finite. Unlimited kindness creates limited impact. You must protect your time, energy, and resources to remain capable of helping anyone, including yourself. Fifth, gratitude fades over time. Don't expect people to remember everything you've done for them. Each interaction stands on its own. Focus on the present, not the accumulated past. Sixth, results matter more than intentions. The world judges your outcomes, not your motives. Being nice without being effective is just comfortable, and comfort doesn't change anything. Seventh, legacy requires survival. You can't leave a positive mark on the world if you don't survive long enough to make one. Strength isn't the opposite of goodness. It's the foundation for effective goodness. Now, here's the most important question: what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you going to keep being good in the old way, blindly, without boundaries, until it exhausts you and diminishes your ability to make real impact? Or are you going to start being good in the new way, strategically, effectively, powerfully? The choice is entirely yours. But now you have the knowledge to choose wisely. Machiavelli wasn't trying to make people evil. He was trying to wake people up to reality. He was saying, the world operates according to certain rules. You can pretend those rules don't exist and suffer the consequences, or you can understand them and navigate them successfully. I'm telling you the same thing today: goodness without strategy is the most dangerous trap you can fall into. It makes you vulnerable. It drains your resources. It creates expectations you can't sustain. And ultimately, it prevents you from creating the positive impact you genuinely want to make. But goodness with strategy, that becomes a weapon for positive change. It becomes a tool for creating real results. It becomes the foundation for a life and legacy that actually matters. You're not abandoning your values by being strategic. You're protecting your ability to live by those values effectively. You're not becoming cruel by setting boundaries. You're becoming sustainable. You're not being selfish by protecting your resources. You're being responsible. Before you leave this video, I want you to make a commitment. Not to me, but to yourself. Commit to being strategically good instead of blindly nice. Commit to creating impact instead of just feeling comfortable. Commit to building something that lasts instead of burning yourself out trying to please everyone. In a world full of wolves, don't be a sheep that gets devoured. And don't become a wolf that devours others. Be the shepherd. Be the one who understands the nature of wolves, protects the flock, but never loses sight of the mission to guide and nurture. That's strategic goodness. That's effective virtue. That's what Machiavelli was really trying to teach us all along. If this video opened your eyes to a truth you needed to hear, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. Not for me, but as a commitment to yourself that you're going to implement these lessons. Then subscribe to Deep Psyche Coded. We dive deep into the uncomfortable truths about human psychology, power dynamics, and strategic thinking that nobody else wants to talk about. This is where you come to understand reality, not fantasy. drop a comment telling me which of these 7 truths hit you the hardest. Was it the generosity paradox? The fading of gratitude? The economics of kindness? Let me know. I read every single comment, and if you know someone who's being taken advantage of because they're too nice, too giving, too accommodating, share this video with them. You might just change their life. Remember, being good is not enough. You must be good strategically. You must be good powerfully. You must be good in a way that actually creates lasting change. The world doesn't need more nice people who get crushed. The world needs more good people who are strong enough, smart enough, and strategic enough to make a real difference. Now go out there and build something that matters. Protect your energy. Set your boundaries. Create your legacy. I'll see you in the next video. This is Deep Psyche Coded, where we decode the brutal truths of human nature. Stay strategic. Stay strong. Stay good.